Hi, this is Jordan from Recap Animation. All properties are owned by their respective companies. Please enjoy. Glowing butterflies fluttering amongst what looks like a set of ruins. Suddenly, a cry is heard, and the glowing birds flutter together, creating a big explosion amongst the ruins. A gigantic man with blue skin shields a young boy with blue hair from the falling rubble. The blue-haired boy falls to his knees and laments that he would rather die than stay locked up. The blue-haired boy calls out to the gigantic man, asking who he is. The man responds by saying that, although he is not allowed to give an answer, he will grant the boy a single wish using the temple's power. The boy starts to make a wish before the scene vanishes. Meanwhile, a blonde teen, Alibaba, is loading goods onto a cart. One of the two men nearby asks, "What's he doing?" Alibaba reveals that he is loading goods for Lord Boodle. They proceed to laugh at his foolish goal. The city's scenery shows that among the buildings is a very prominent tall tower. Alibaba is still loading goods when he discovers a blue-haired boy eating watermelons inside one of the wagons. The boy introduces himself as a traveler named Aladdin. Alibaba grabs Aladdin and begins to scold him until Lord Boodle calls for him. Alibaba tries to hide Aladdin and the mess from Lord Boodle, but to no avail. When Lord Boodle discovers Aladdin and his precious watermelon eaten, he demands to know the meaning of this. As Alibaba tries to think of something, Aladdin begins groping Lord Boodle. Alibaba grabs Aladdin, attempting to apologize and explain the situation. However, Lord Boodle is only further outraged and demands that Alibaba work without pay until he pays for the lost goods. It is now evening, and Alibaba is upset about the situation that he is in. Then, when he decides to grab some fruit from a basket from hunger, he grabs Aladdin's head instead. He throws Aladdin across the room when he discovers that Aladdin ate all the fruit in the basket. Alibaba then says he needs to capture a dungeon or he'll have no money left. Aladdin questions what a dungeon is, and Alibaba explains that they are filled with riches and the ultimate discovery of a metal vessel possessing a jinn. Aladdin then asks where these dungeons are. Alibaba has already fallen asleep. Aladdin is glad that he might be able to find out who he is searching for and closes his eyes. The next day, Alibaba forces Aladdin awake, and Aladdin follows Alibaba, much to Alibaba's dismay. Aladdin asks where the dungeons are. Alibaba points out that there is one in this city, the 7th dungeon, Amon. Alibaba declares that he will capture this dungeon and other dungeons to become the wealthiest man in the world, and says he doesn't have time to be bothered by Aladdin. The two of them get into a conversation when Alibaba talks about how the money will attract many women. Aladdin gets distracted by this and accidentally knocks over a magnate-haired girl. Aladdin and Alibaba apologize for this, and Alibaba offers to help her, but she declines. Aladdin points out the chains on her ankles. Alibaba notices too, and the red-haired girl becomes very self-conscious about the chains. And Alibaba says she is a slave, but Aladdin is confused. Aladdin walks to the red-haired girl and breaks her chains using his flute. This causes a commotion, and Alibaba tries to scold Aladdin, but struggles when Aladdin asks why that was the wrong action. Lord Boodle arrives and gets upset at Alibaba and threatens that Alibaba could become enslaved, using the red-haired girl as an example of how he would be treated as a slave. Aladdin interrupts and blows the flute, from which two gigantic blue arms appear. The arms knock down Lord Boodle's men and cause them to fall in shock. The blue arms seem to blush at the sight of the pinkish-haired girl, and the arms return inside the flute. Alibaba and Aladdin flee, and the pinkish-haired girl runs in another direction. Later, Alibaba asks Aladdin about the flute, which Aladdin introduces as Ugo, a jinn. Fascinated by Aladdin's flute, he brings Aladdin to a hotel, as with his help, he can get a dungeon. Boodle's superior, Jamil, knew about the incident and gave Boodle a job transporting wine and enslaved people. Meanwhile, Aladdin revealed his aim to fulfill his promise to Ugo that he would search for a jinn metal vessel. Later, Boodle found Alibaba, and he threatened Alibaba either to work for Boodle for life or die, which made Aladdin work for Boodle. Later, they found the girl encaged, revealing that she would be transferred to the mines. On their journey, a desert hyacinth was seen attacking the cargo. While helping Boodle carry the wine, Alibaba saw a girl falling from the cliff. The girl they met earlier in the market saves the little girl, but they both end up falling from the cliff. Alibaba gets worried about them and punches Boodle for just worrying about the wine and goes to save them from being eaten by the hyacinth. Aladdin later tried to help Alibaba in his rescue by summoning his jinn. However, Alibaba Baba changed places with the two of them in the process. When he was drowning, Aladdin saved him, and Jamil saw what happened from afar and grinned. Aladdin later went with Ali Baba, and Aladdin requested Ali Baba to be his friend, which Ali Baba agreed to. Ali Baba and Aladdin then set off to the dungeon. When Ali Baba is in front of the dungeon, he hesitates, but with Aladdin's accidental push on Ali Baba due to his hunger, they both ventured into the dungeon. Suddenly, Ali Baba felt like he couldn't breathe, and then he abruptly opened his eyes and got his mouth out of the water. When Ali Baba saw that the water was mixed with oil, he immediately began to find Aladdin. When Ali Baba saw him lying on the water's surface, he went towards him, but then suddenly the fire started burning in the water. So after picking up Aladdin, he immediately rushed out of the water. Afterward, Aladdin woke up and saw the fire. Then Ali Baba told him if they were even 1 second too slow on the uptake, it would have been game over for them. Meanwhile, the Lord of the Terror, Sharif Jamil, enters the dungeon with his soldiers, saying it's time for him to aim for the top. Afterward, Ali Baba and Aladdin run into many traps. While running from Round Rock, Aladdin summons Ugo, who helps them to get out of the situation. Then they arrive at a shining blue place, where Aladdin tells Ali Baba that after summoning Ugo, he feels starvation, and due to this reason, he is weak after it. Then suddenly, they are attacked by strange green ants. Ali Baba slashes them with his dagger and effortlessly slices them, but then the ants combined and a massive monster appears. Witnessing this, Aladdin again summons Ugo to fight the monster, and after Ugo defeats the green monster with magic, Aladdin faints due to hunger and exhaustion. Afterward, Ali Baba looks after the unconscious Aladdin and thinks he is always the one who is being saved. Then he looks at Aladdin's flute and tries to blow in it to see whether he can summon Ugo, but nothing happens, making him laugh. Then Ali Baba thinks that even after all that time, Aladdin and he stayed together, he still doesn't know anything about him, but then thinks it's normal, as he actually didn't tell Aladdin anything about himself. After that day, he was also tired, so he also decided to sleep. Later, Ali Baba abruptly opens his eyes due to the sound of footsteps coming from the dungeon. From a hiding spot, Ali Baba looks Sharif Jamil. Then, when he thought they didn't see him, Morgiana discovers him. Then Jamil walks toward Aladdin while ignoring Ali Baba and tells him that he's been waiting 10 years for him to appear, Magi. Then Jamil hides his flute, and Goltas picks up the fainted Aladdin. When Ali Baba saw that they were ignoring him, he used his quick movements to put his dagger on Goltas's neck, making Jamil amazed by his agility. He persuaded Ali Baba to join them because the latter wanted to save Aladdin. The group walks on until a puzzle trap eventually stops them. Jamil tries to read the language of Toran. Still, Ali Baba reads it faster than him and with much more proficiency than his, so Jamil, in his jealousy, slightly pierces Ali Baba's arm and then tells him to disarm the fiery trap. Then Ali Baba thought about Aladdin, who always saved him, but now it's his turn to save Aladdin. Afterward, Ali Baba ran inside the fiery trap in a specific pattern and finally got to the dragon statue and pressed the switch, succeeding in disabling the trap. Still, suddenly, Ali Baba was engulfed in flames, and seeing this, Jamil crossed the disabled trap easily with his slaves while ignoring Ali Baba. Later, Aladdin wakes up and asks about Ali Baba's whereabouts, so Jamil lies that Ali Baba betrayed him and took his flute. Afterward, Jamil leaves Aladdin in Morgiana's care while the other two explore further. Once Aladdin gets her to open up, the two talk mainly about Morgiana's homeland and the shackles that keep her tied to Jamil physically and mentally. Aladdin then asks what happened to Ali Baba, so Morgiana tells him how Ali Baba endangered his life to protect them and died. While Aladdin is listening to her, Ali Baba appears above him. Ali Baba first gets shocked and then opens his flying carpet. Ali Baba and Aladdin quickly escape and find themselves in front of a massive gate that requires both their hands to open and a magic incantation. The door opens, revealing the whole underground city with sky, clouds, and sun. When they look up in the center of the sky, they see broken glass, which reveals it is not a real sky, but an artificial one. Aladdin and Ali Baba explore the deserted city, and Aladdin tells him his friend Ugo told him about this place a long time ago, that outside the Room of Fortitude spreads the necropolis, the city of the dead. Aladdin thinks this is what he was talking about. Ali Baba then asked, in curiosity, whether Ugo can speak, so Aladdin tells Ali Baba that he can only bring his body right now, but he does have a head. Meanwhile, Jamil and his slaves have arrived also in the underground underground city and are fighting the fiery slimes. Jamil then kicks Morgiana while cursing her for giving him the wrong answer. One of the slimes imitates Jamil's words, which frightens Jamil. Later, Aladdin and Ali Baba reach the treasure room and notice rusty skeletons and armors. Still, when they were about to investigate the area, Goltas appears and collapses in front of them. While they are distracted by Goltas, Morgiana kicks Aladdin, sending him across the room. Jamil has Morgiana go after Aladdin while he deals with Ali Baba. Jamil and Ali Baba engage in a sword duel. In their match, Jamil thinks that Ali Baba has no idea how long he has been studying royal swordplay, which is only meant to be taught to palace royalty. After their fight starts, Ali Baba effortlessly evades Jamil's attacks and knocks him down. Jamil wonders how Ali Baba can outmaneuver him. When Ali Baba has Jamil cornered, Jamil gets scared and hurriedly orders Morgiana to save him. Morgiana dashes from the end of the room to Jamil's side, causing Ali Baba to be surprised by her strength. Ali Baba tries to ask Morgiana how long she plans on obeying that man and says that they are in a dungeon and no one will blame her if she ditched him. Morgiana starts walking toward him and Ali Baba smiles and puts his hand forward for a handshake, yet he finds himself slammed by Morgiana into the stairs. Jamil laughs at Ali Baba and rudely pets Morgiana. He stomps multiple times on Ali Baba repeatedly and orders Morgiana to kill Ali Baba. When recalling all the brutal things that Jamil did to her, she hesitates to kill Ali Baba until she finally gives in to Jamil's orders and moves to pierce Ali Baba's neck. Still, in the nick of time, Aladdin destroys Morgiana's sword with magic and then walks toward Ali Baba to check on him. Afterwards, he demands Jamil give him back his flute. When Morgiana tries to attack Aladdin, Aladdin binds Morgiana with his powers. In the meantime, Jamil recalls his teacher's vision of a great magi. Jamil realizes Aladdin is the real magi. As Jamil asks Aladdin to make him a king after giving Aladdin his flute, Aladdin remarks that Jamil is not worthy of being king. Hearing this, he goes into shock. Then suddenly, a pillar of flame appears and a massive jinn appears. While he asks who will be the king, and when he sees Ali Baba, the jinn says he is the one. Afterward, he bows to Aladdin, and then Ugo appears and tells him the situation in signs as he can't speak without the head. After understanding the basic situation, Jinn tells them his name is Amon, and he is the Jinn of propriety and discipline and the master of flames. Then he says, as the ruler of this dungeon, he recognizes the two of them and declares this dungeon cleared, after which he explains a magi's purpose, which is to select a king, and tells that Aladdin is not a normal magi, but a beloved one with Solomon's spirit. Suddenly, someone strikes the tower from the outside, causing the tower to crumble. Then Amon urges them to get inside the teleporting circle. Then, despite Ali Baba's urge for Jamil's group to leave with them, Morgiana is confused about whether to save her master or not, and Goltas tells her Jamil is not allowed to leave this dungeon, and then says about himself that he has done too much evil and have killed too many people to leave this place. Goltas frees Morgiana from her chains and tells her to go with them. Afterward, he and Jamil stay behind to face their fate. On the way out, Ali Baba and Aladdin chat about their goals and promise each other to go on more adventures. In Keishin, Ali Baba finds himself welcomed by the villagers, but he finds Aladdin missing while Morgiana is outside the village. Meanwhile, in the plains, the Kuga clansmen find Aladdin sleeping. If you have made it to the end, thank you so much for watching this recap with us. If you like this recap and want to see more of it, click the like below and watch part 2 of the series.